welcome to Cardiff Central Library Hub chapter story time. So it's time for chapter 2 of our fantastic story, The Wizard in My Shed, by the very, very funny Simon Farnaby, illustrated by the amazing Claire Powell, and coming to you with the kind permission of Hodder Publishers. So in chapter 1, we met Merdyn in the wild in the Dark Ages, where he was banished to the rivers of Purgatory for bad behaviour. But the evil magician Jerobo played a trick and actually transported him to the rivers of time. So chapter 2 is called Missing Glasses and Nasty Lasses. Shall we see what happens? Please welcome to the stage Rose Falvey, boomed a very different master of ceremonies, for the stage in question was that of Mountford High School, Bashingford, just off the M3, and we're no longer in the 6th century but the 21st, where you live. Mountford High School was having its very own version of the TV programme called Britain's Got Talented People, imaginatively entitled Mountford's Got Talented People. There'd been qualifying heats throughout the spring term, and now there were only 2 chances left to reach the grand final next term. Rose Falvey didn't want to wait for the last heat, the last chance. That would be too much pressure. So she was pumped for this now. So pumped, in fact, that on hearing her name from the wings, she sprang onto the stage like a gazelle and overshot the spotlight mark. The spotlight then had to try and find her again, while Rose ran around in a panic trying to find the spotlight in return. None of this was helped by the fact Rose was without her much-needed glasses. She decided they didn't go with her outfit, which was a skin-tight leopard skin onesie, like one she'd seen Beyonce wearing in a YouTube video. In hindsight, this was a bad decision, as now she couldn't see anything. She dashed round the stage, glimpsing nothing but a blur of faces and the occasional blinding light, and by now the crowd were giggling loudly. It wasn't a great start. By the time Rose finally found her light, she was breathing heavily. She still felt positive, however, of giving a fantastic rendition of Beyonce's Crazy in Love. Rose had inherited her dad's endless positivity. He'd always told her that as long as you tried your best, it was impossible to fail. She'd practiced for this moment in front of a mirror every night for 3 weeks. If what her dad said was true, which it usually was, this was going to go well. The music started. From the moment she started to sing, Rose felt something was wrong. When she sang at home, it was within the muffled confines of her bedroom, and her only audience was her yellow guinea pig, Bubbles. After nearly an hour of rehearsing, her older brother Chris had insisted she close the door and wore headphones so he didn't have to listen to the song over and over again and go crazy himself. Now on stage, singing out loud for the first time, she felt strangely exposed, like one of those dreams where you end up at school with no clothes on. Oh, look so crazy, love, got me looking so crazy, love. Rose started her dance moves. She figured that if her singing voice didn't wow the crowd, she could always rely on her superb dancing. In her room, she'd quickly realised that she couldn't dance like Beyonce. Who could? Therefore, Rose had invented her own routine. Her signature move, the one she was most proud of, was the high kick. It was, as it sounds, a super high kick that almost went higher than her block of frizzy red hair that sat atop her head in bunches. She let loose some high kicks now, followed by some spins. Rose was proud of these too. They were really just an extension of the high kick. When the elevated leg came down, she would swing it across, and behind her standing leg, using the centrifugal force to send her upper body into a spin. Getting into the spin was easy. Getting out was always problematic. However, even in her bedroom. And as Rose now couldn't see very well, she kept finding herself exiting the spins facing the back of the stage, then having to track down the audience again in time for the next bit. It gives me no pleasure to tell you, reader, that eventually the combination of out-of-tune singing, manic high-kicking and wonky spins took their toll on the audience. Soon, loud gales of laughter began to spread through the auditorium. When the song finally ended, even the 3 judges, 3 fully grown adult teachers, mind, couldn't keep straight faces. If that had been a comedy act, you'd have got top marks, Rose, said Mr. Culkin, head judge and maths teacher, eventually. The other judges were too busy laughing to even speak. Rose made her way from the stage and into the schoolyard, feeling completely embarrassed. You could have fried an egg on her cheeks, they were so hot and red. She tried to pull herself together. What did Mr. Culkin know about music anyway? He thought Stormzy was a type of weather front. She'd endured embarrassment before. She would get through this blip. The last thing she needed to see, however, were the cats walking towards her. Katrina, Andrea and Tamsin were 3 of the most odious 12-year-olds you'd ever wish to meet. They were collectively known as the cats because of their names and because they had claws. Nasty ones. Metaphorically speaking, anyway. And now they'd made their way out of the auditorium specifically to get those claws into poor Rose. "Hey, Frizzpot," said Katrina, who wore far too much makeup. "Nice moves." Then she did her own little high kick by way of parody. Rose couldn't help noticing that it wasn't even knee height, never mind hair height. "Your audition from hell just went viral," Tamsin sneered. Tamsin had brains, but she didn't like to use them. She shoved her brand new smartphone in Rose's face and pressed play on a video. Rose saw the grainy footage of herself high-kicking and singing in a voice which seemed even worse than she remembered. The video had been liked over 700 times already. Andrea, Andy for short, joined in. She was the muscle behind the cats, looking more like a wrestler than a schoolgirl and towering head and shoulders above even the boys. "You need singing lessons, you frizzy-haired freckle mouse." "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me," reasoned Rose. This was another lesson her dad had taught her. He told her to say this to bullies to stop them in their tracks, or at least confuse them long enough to make her escape. "Have it your way," replied Andy before casually picking up a stick and hurling it at Rose. The stick struck Rose square on the forehead. Thud! "Ow!" yelled Rose. But even in her agony, she had to give Andy some respect. Of all the times she'd used her dad's sticks and stones line, Rose had never once realised she was actually giving her enemies a useful piece of advice. Mind you, why am I surprised, she thought. A hot soup of anger and sadness bubbled inside her. Hadn't her dad also told her that as long as you tried your best, it was impossible to fail? He'd been wrong about that too. Suddenly, every piece of advice her beloved dad had ever given her seemed to be crumbling into dust beneath her feet. And then Rose ran, speeding through the gears. She fled the cackling cats so they couldn't see her tears. And that's chapter 2 of Wizard in the Shed. So, there was no wizard in this bit, and there was no shed, but we did meet Rose. So, next time we will have chapter 3, which is called 2 Inquisitors and Strange Visitors. Have a fabulous week. See you for chapter 3. Bye!